can we talk about in innovation? When we start talking about a city that is made of innovation, made of technology, made of a lot of different things that you look at throughout the world, in a place that has made a difference in the world, you look at Huntsville. And we as a group, 2 years ago, I think about what happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago, this started, and it didn't start right here, it started in downtown, but it started as a movement. And it started as a movement, how we can get smarter, how we can get more technical, how we can have more technology that we work, how we can learn how to do an app, or how we can learn to do coding, or how we can learn to raise $1 million. And you look across the board at what's happened in this community, from this, we have gone to more entrepreneurship than we've ever had in our life. In this community, there's more entrepreneurship working than we've ever had. And as that works, we start to develop the newest, best widgets. And as we make the newest, best widgets, we have to have people who work and make those widgets and have to put them together. And then we have to have a company that pulls all those workers together, and then we have to have an industry. And as we do that, we develop a community. And we develop a community that is a high-tech community that is made for innovation and made to keep growing. To each of you have had a part of it. I see many people out here, and I was noticing Bob Ludwig and Bob Thurber and a few of us. There's many of us here who are double millennials. And we are double millennials because we are twice the age of most of the millennials. But we feel like millennials because we like to work in technology. We like to see how things work. We like to see how we can get more efficient. We like to see things done outside the box. I just cut the cake, I put an X on it instead of push it down the middle. We have to see what happens. What happens if you cut it as an X rather than do something else? And as we do that, we start seeing the same thing that's brought this community together. This community has thought outside the box for years and years and years. And we've thought outside the box. Who would have thought that all of a sudden you would come out of World War II and you would bring German scientists here? Just people you had just fought in a war against, and they come here. And then who would have thought that we would be working on things like rockets? And who would have thought that today, from that little work that we were doing on rockets, we would have Missile Defense Agency, where we're doing 85% of America's missile defense work is being done right here in Huntsville, Alabama. Who would have thought that when we started off, with the idea that we're gonna make rockets, that we would have gone and we would have made the rockets that put man on the moon and took man into deep space. And then who would have thought that today we're building the new rockets, the rockets that will take man faster than we've ever moved and take man further than we've ever gone and take man to Mars and bring them back. That's what we're doing right here in Huntsville at NASA. And then who would have ever thought that as we did those little rockets, as that German scientist team came in and they said, we kind of like what we do in the aerospace field. Who would have thought that we'd come in and we'd be producing, we'd have AMCOM here, which is Army Aviation. And Army Aviation has more flying machines than the U.S. Air Force. And who would have thought that would happen in a little place called Huntsville, Alabama, which was known for cotton and watercress? But it did. And it happened because people thought outside the box. Who would have thought 50 years ago that if we do a research park, and that research park is a place where we put all of our technology businesses together so that synergy would come along, that we would end up with a research park which is thousands of acres. And who would have ever thought that now we have to change that research park, and we have to make it not a 1960s research park, but a 21st century research park with pocket parks and boulevards and retail in the middle of it, and more density so that you all of a sudden have a feeling that you're part of something out there. That is something that we have been thinking outside the box for years and years on. As we have been Huntsville, Madison County, North Alabama, we have put together the widgets that have made the difference in the life of everybody. And who would have ever thought that from a little business at UAH, or from a little department at UAH, we would end up mapping the human genome. And taking that human genome mapping that we have, and we would have turned it into a medical clinic, and we would have the first genomic medical clinic in the world located at Hudson Alpha. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that you could now map your human genome for $6,500 when it cost millions and millions and millions of dollars to do it the first time? All that is done because our community thinks outside the box. Nobody knows what is coming next. Change is one of the most definite things that we all have, and change is going to come. And as we embrace that change, because I think that's the strength of our community, we have taken change and we have embraced it. We've embraced the change that has come in the aerospace field. We've embraced the change that has come in the space field. We've embraced the change that has come across the world, and we are making a difference. One of the final things that I want to talk about, Monday, we made an announcement. Rocketdyne Airjet is setting up its defense headquarters here, and it's going to add 700 jobs. And they're going to be making rocket engines. And this is part of the strategy that we started way back when in the 1960s. When the 1960s, when we started making rockets, we said we want to be the propulsion center of the world. And so we worked hard at NASA, and we had NASA named as the propulsion center of excellence for the NASA, and we had Marshall Space Flight Center named as the propulsion center. And now we've got Aerojet Rocketdyne, we've got Boeing, we've got Dynetics, we've got Teledyne Brown. We have hundreds of companies working in the propulsion field, and we have become the propulsion center of the world, the propulsion center of the United States, and I say by default that gives us the propulsion center of the world. Just another little part of the strategy that we're using as a city or as an area so that we can continue to grow and we can continue to grow jobs. And we can show the centers of excellence that we have. We are a community that is made to think outside the box, to move faster and move forward quicker, to use the technology that is out there so that we can make the new best widgets that are out there. And you're doing it here tonight. So to each of you, I want to say thank you. Thank you for doing the job that you're doing. You're coming out at night on your Wednesday night, you're coming out so that you can walk away just a little bit smarter, a little bit more technologically savvy, that you can walk away as someone who's going to be able to give more back to this community. And as you give more back to this community, you make this community a better place. You provide jobs, you provide industry, you provide a center of excellence for this community. And Huntsville has turned into a center of excellence in a broad range of fields, but that broad range of fields makes us something very special. Thank you for being part of Coworking. Congratulations on 100 meetings, the 100th meeting, the second year anniversary. I was trying to figure that out. 52 weeks times 2 is 104, but I said, well, I guess we took off Christmas and Thanksgiving both years, so that gave us 100. But congratulations on 2 years. And we hope that we go many, many more years because the work that's done here makes us a center of excellence throughout the world. Thank you so much.
I'm going to tell you kind of my journey. So how I came to start a startup, raise $1 million, do it all here in Huntsville by the time I was 25. As I say that, I notice I'm talking fast, so I apologize. There's going to be some lexicon around startup stuff. If there's any words you don't understand, just ask me questions. Totally fine. So for me, there was really 3 big steps that I took before I was able and comfortable to start a business. Those aren't for everyone, but they work for me. The first one is identifying really that you want to start a startup and then finding the space that you want to really devote your life to. Where is the industry that you want to spend the rest of your life thinking about working in, meeting all the people, and just being excited about? For me, that was video games. It helped that I was 11. But I still love video games. It's something that I've been doing for a long time. It's something that I really like. And it's something that I think is really the future of people and humans and connecting. So the beginning was identifying that industry and then figuring out how you can be an expert in a particular niche. So where can you make yourself the most valuable person in the world within that space? So what I did in video games is I went into competitive gaming, into esports, which is really treating video games as a sport. So, working in teams, competing in tournaments and leagues, practicing 8 hours a day, and trying to make it as an athlete within video games. And that might sound a little bit less crazy as it did 10 years ago, but it still sounds kind of crazy. But 10 years ago, that was me. I was competing as that professional. So step 1, identify that industry and then figure out how you can be a super expert within it, how you can be the best person in the world at something. So like I said, that was competitive gaming. So I became a professional gamer. I played a bunch of different games. I was trying to be the best in the world at it. And I grew my strongest skill sets through that, which was not playing the games, not being really mechanically skilled, not having great hand-eye coordination or something. It was figuring out who are the best people in the world and bring them onto my team. Have them want to work with me to accomplish a goal together. And that still is my strongest skill. That's still the thing I'm best at. It's not managing people, it's not managing money, it's not marketing, it's finding incredible people and getting them to want to work with me. So I did that for a bunch of years, and I created within myself a really valuable brand. Which brings me into the second step, which is practice. Try building that company. And for me, what that was in my junior and senior year of college, I built a coaching website for the most popular game in the world. It was a game called League of Legends. So I had been a semi and kind of professional player within that game. I had been on the business side. I'd connected, endemic sponsors with teams and tournaments. I understood all the most popular players, all the people that were the best in the game. And I brought them into my platform as coaches and found the people that wanted to learn from them in a one-on-one session. I did that for about a year and a half. I learned all the terrible things that you can only learn by starting a business, like reporting and hiring and firing and paying people and when software goes wrong and all that kind of stuff. So did that for about a year, went pretty okay. I ended up selling that website, and it brought me to step 3, which is join a startup. Join a really fast-growing, exciting, incredible startup that is in that industry that you love, that you devoted your life to, that will give you all the opportunities you need to learn absolutely everything about the space so that you can create something incredibly valuable. For me, that was Curse. So this is back in 2013. I was on an hour-and-a-half call with a guy named Donovan Duncan. He's the president of Curse Media here in Huntsville. We talked. I loved what they were doing. And 2 weeks later, I flew here to Huntsville. I'd never been in the South before, never been to Alabama before, never been to Huntsville before. I had a duffel bag of clothes, and I decided to put everything I had into Curse for 3 years. And I did that. So at the time when I joined, they were a 25-person startup doing incredible things. They figured out their identity. They knew their model. But they hadn't reached the heights of yet what they were to reach. And so I did my best to help them get there. So I worked 7 different jobs, got promoted 5 times in 3 years, and ended up being the youngest executive in their history. I ran biz dev and content marketing for the media side of the business. And literally for 3 years, it was my identity. I introduced myself to everyone as, hey, I'm Justin from Curse, which sounds really great in a biz dev setting, but in the dating scene doesn't go so well. But it was my world, and it was perfect for me, and it's what I would recommend to anyone, is to find a startup like Curse, because anytime they gave me more responsibility, they expected more out of me, and I did well at it, I was given more opportunities. And that is everything that I love about startups. That is what they're about. It is a meritocracy at its core. If you do well, then you are a star. If you continue to do well, you're given more opportunities, you continue to grow, you build teams around yourself, you identify new business opportunities. That's really what a startup's all about, and that's what Curse gave me. And it brought me to the point where I finished step 3 and I had everything that I needed. So where I was in January of 2016, I had the core things, the pieces that I needed to build a company. The first for me, and this is not for everyone, but the first for me was co-founders. When I get demotivated, or I get scared, or I'm worried about something, I have people that are incredibly excited, that believe in me, that know that we're going to kill it. And I had those people that I trusted as much as I trusted myself. Those were people that I worked with, very closely at Curse for 3 years. That they were my best friends. They're people that we executed on projects with better than literally anyone in the industry. The second thing that I had was I had a unique advantage that no one else in the world had. By that time, not only did I understand the industry, not only did I understand the pieces of building a business, those foundational parts, but I had an unfair advantage in the place that in the business that I wanted to build, which is the third piece of those things that I needed, which is an idea. It wasn't my idea, actually. It was one of my co-founders. He had a great idea. It was something that I knew I had a significantly unfair advantage in. And I had that team with me, and then the last little piece is I had some startup capital, which really helped, which was just by talking to wonderful people and having them believe in me. So that brought me to January of 2016, where I quit my job in an incredibly fast-growing startup, where I was doing well. I was the youngest executive in their history. I was paid incredibly well. Life was wonderful, and I quit. And it's because I finally had those pieces to accomplish the goal that I've had for 12 years, more than a decade. And that was in a company that was in the process of being acquired by Amazon, which is a super successful exit. But I quit because finally the time had come where I had everything I needed to start a startup, which was Chrono GG. Before I get into the company and the team and what we're building, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the industry that we're in, because it might be a little bit unique to some of you. So Chrono is in the gaming industry. We're in video games, and specifically we're in PC games. And the interesting thing about games is they are now the single biggest sector within the entire entertainment industry. Gaming is bigger than books. It's bigger than movies. It's bigger than music. It's bigger than TV. And it's the fastest growing as well. Last year, gaming did about $100 billion, and our specific space in it, which is PC gaming, did about 33. There's three big players I want to talk about. So the first is Steam. They're the single biggest distribution platform for PC games. It's where everyone goes to buy their games for the computer. Last year they did about $3.5 billion. A little bit more than Amazon, which we're also going to talk about. The next company I want to talk about is Twitch. Twitch is a platform that lets people stream themselves playing games in real time. And that might sound like something crazy. Why would you want to watch other people play games when you could just play them yourself? Well, at any moment, Twitch has more than 650,000 concurrent people watching other folks play games. Some of the most popular broadcasters on there have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people watching them at any time. League of Legends is the most popular game in the world. It has more than 100 million monthly active players in any particular month. And they have a professional gaming scene within that game. What I mean by that is there's people that play that game as an athlete, as a profession. It's their life, it's their career. They're on teams with support staff of 40 people. They're teams of 5 that literally practice 10 hours a day, every single day, to be the best at that game. And in 2016, the League of Legends final match went to Game 7. More people watched that Game 7 than watched Game 7 between the Cavs and the Warriors in the NBA Finals. So a little bit about Chrono. We're a distribution platform in the gaming space. What that means is that we work directly with the best game developers and publishers to feature their games on our website, and then we sell them to our customers. We don't develop games, we don't make them. We simply work with the people that do to then sell them to our incredible customers. And we do it in a unique way. What that unique way is that we feature only one game at a time. So we're not a storefront. We're not like Steam that has thousands of different games on it and hundreds of different deals. We only sell one thing. And all those games are just on our website for 24 hours, then every day it's something new. Which is essentially meaning that our goal is to create a habit within our customers so that they visit us every single day. When we have a new game coming out at 9 a.m. Pacific every single day, they're there, seeing what that new title is and seeing if it fits them. And the last piece is that we work with all of those most popular influencers in the world to drive attention to us. All those people with tens of thousands of people watching them on Twitch, on YouTube, with huge social media followings, we work with them to drive attention to the games that we're selling. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the team. So I'm Justin Sachs, I'm the CEO. My background, about a decade ago, I got started in competitive gaming. I ended up building a coaching website for League of Legends, that game that I mentioned. In college, I sold that off, joined a company called Curse. I worked with them for about 3 years, going from about as junior as you could get up to the youngest executive in their history. I ran biz dev and content marketing for them. And back in 2013, I left to start working on Chrono. My 2 co-founders also worked with me at Curse. We have Zach Stelz. He's our product manager. So he helped lead product at Curse. He was one of the people that coordinated the 30, 40-person engineering teams, wireframed and ideated all the new websites, created the features and the platforms for some of the most popular websites on the planet. Adam, my other co-founder, also worked with me at Curse. He was one of the lead design and user experience folks over there. He does the same thing for us as well as head of front-end engineering. So he's in charge of the aesthetic, the user experience, the feel, the touch of our website. This is what he did at Curse. He was the guy that created that experience that had literally millions of people coming back every single day. And he's doing the same thing for us. Lastly, we have Dusty Clark on the core team. He's our principal engineer. He's a full stack software engineer, more than a decade of experience. He shipped B2B products, B2C products, and he knows about every piece of software possible, but for us, he handles backend engineering, DevOps, and then all the other pieces devoted to that. He's the person that's in charge of making sure that the things work, that all of the features that aren't user-facing but are critical to our success, he's in charge of them. Lastly, we have 2 advisors who are very close to the company and very core to what we do. First is Michael Warraz. He's the Senior Vice President and Head of Strategy and Corporate Development over at Take-Two Interactive. Take-Two is one of the big AAA publishers in gaming that are worth about $4 billion or so. He's one of the most connected people in the space. He has a mind for the numbers of the industry that's unparalleled, something that I've never seen. He's been a very dear mentor to me for about 3 years. Secondly, we have Davin Riley. He's the equivalent to Michael, but on the influencer side of things. He used to head up biz dev at Machinima, which is one of the leading influencer platforms that helps to monetize influencer content. He then moved on to do a bunch of different things, including leading strategic partnerships at Loot Crate, which was announced the fastest growing company in the nation by Inc. last year. And he basically knows all the people that it's worth knowing within the influencer space. Last thing before I move on, the company Curse that I mentioned, they ended up getting acquired by Amazon in August of 2016. So it was really wonderful being part of that experience, from joining a startup at its, at the early stages when it had 25 people, but it understood its business model, all the way through a very successful exit, and now it has more than 100 employees, incredible revenues, and it's building really wonderful things. So Chrono.gg is launched, so I have some numbers to share. We launched back in March of 2016, and since then we've had more than 1 million unique users. We've had more than 372 developer partners, more than 150 influencer partners. More than 85% of our users are returning every single day. A bunch of other stuff. For example, some standout days that I want to mention. We sold a game called Warhammer Vermintide, where we did more than $60,000 in revenue in a single day. That's pretty cool, but the really exciting and validating part of that is that was our 3rd day in business. That was the 3rd day we had ever been. The game that we sold, and again, we only sell one game and it's only on there for 1 day, did more than $60,000. Super validating, because I just left a job where I was doing really well, on track to be incredibly successful. It was in the process of being acquired by Amazon. I left it all to start this thing, and it actually worked, so that was nice. We also sold a game called Insurgency, where we fully sold out on more than 15,000 copies in a day, with one single influencer driving more than 6,000 of those sales. We had more than $800,000 in revenue in the first year, and something I'm very proud of, our burn, meaning the money that we spend every single month, has been the same. Since we started to now, we've spent right around the same amount of money, not increasing for random marketing, not doing anything weird. It's always stayed right around $30,000 to $35,000. So one big question is, if you heard about the business model, it's not that proprietary. We don't have any unique software. We don't have any hardware that someone else couldn't build. So why wouldn't someone else do this? What is our unique advantage that no one else has? And there's a couple of things. So one is the team. I literally have people on the team that have built the most popular websites and platforms in the industry. I have people that have understood what are the future-facing products that developers want, that customers want, that gamers want. What are these people looking for? Those people are on my team that actually understand that and know how to build those products. They understand not just the user experience and the design and the product, but also how do you actually build a website that can stand up to hundreds of thousands of gamers coming at it within 5 minutes? Because that's important when we have one game on our platform and it changes over at the same time every day. Most of our traffic comes in right at 9 a.m. Pacific. In addition to that, we have a unique network that is unmatched. I have worked with all of the AA and AAA publishers within the space. It was my role at Curse to work directly with those publishers. As they come out with a new game, they come to Curse, because Curse is the #1 media company, and they say, I have a new game coming out. I have $200,000, $500,000, $700,000 in marketing budget for this game. What can you do to drive the most amount of attention possible to it? And we would get 20 of those requests for proposals every single month. And it was my role to come up with those marketing campaigns and then actually execute them and continue to do well enough that those clients came back to us again and again and again. And lastly, I have a network within influencers that is also unmatched. So on the AA and publisher side, those contacts are business executives. There's people that they get in at 9 every day. They work really hard. They understand what to do. They know how to look at a contract. These are well-established business people. My other network is influencers, which aren't quite those people. A gaming influencer is usually a early 20s gamer that all they do literally is play games every single day, and then they create content around it. They end up making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, but all they do is make games, and what that means, or play games, and what that means is sometimes they don't wake up in time when you have an activation, or sometimes when you text them 40 times, they get back to you and say, hey bro, I partied last night and my phone fell in the pool. And more than that, those influencers, these incredibly valuable personalities, a lot of the time they don't have agents like they might in sports or in TV or movies. They don't have managers that can actually make sure that they get stuff delivered, and sometimes they don't even have a business email. So even if you identify that they're the most valuable way to market a game, you cannot work with them unless you very critically understand how to leverage their brand, how to identify who their audience is, and then actually how to reach them. I've been friends with them for a decade. I've been those people. I've worked with them for a long time, and I know who to talk to and how to get them on board. And then lastly, on the bottom, I have some of the different folks we've worked with, which are wonderful game developers and wonderful influencer partners. So I'm going to walk you through a case study, so basically how the business model works and how it's going to scale over time. So up until this point, which has been about a year, all we've sold are indie games. And there's a little bit more than that, but three large tiers of games, of gaming products. The first is indie games. These are made by a couple of folks. They have no marketing budget, and a really, really successful indie game might sell 100,000 copies in its lifetime. So we'd work with them. We might activate one great influencer, so we'll take Total Biscuit in this case. And maybe if we do very well, we'll do $60,000 in gross revenue in a day. Where that money goes to, about $35,000 goes back to the developer, $7,500 goes to the influencer, and then Chrono nets about $16,500. And again, this is in one day, and this is, every day is a different game, but they all just go on for one day. So something important to mention there, Total Biscuit, who made that video that ended up driving, a significant amount of revenue where he brought back to him $7,500, he was gonna make that content anyways. Warhammer Vermintide was one of his top 10 games of 2015. It's a game that he loves, a game that he's made videos for. It's a game that he's going to make content out again in the future. And yet when he did with us, he made 25 times more revenue by working with us than he would have normally through YouTube ad revenue or donations from his audience. So by doing the exact same thing that he wants to do anyways, that he's already planning to do, he makes a lot more money and lets his audience know about an incredible deal that happens to only last that day. So the concept of what we're going to do now is scale up to AA and AAA games. So a AA game is made by 10 to 50 developers. It has maybe $50,000 to $500,000 in marketing budget, and a really, really successful one might sell 500,000 to 2 million copies. So we'd take a AA game, we'd work with 5+ influencers, and we'd expect to gross about $250K in a single day period. What that breaks down to is about $150K to the developer, $31K to the influencers, and then Chrono would net about $70K. And again, this is in a 24-hour period. So the plan is, we're gonna start working with them in early 2017 and continue to establish those relationships and build them up over time. Eventually, by late 2017, early 2018, we're gonna start working with AAA. AAA are the big names that you've heard of: Call of Duty, FIFA, Madden, Battlefield, Metal Gear Solid, Grand Theft Auto, all the brand names that where you see commercials on TV. So we'd work with those AAA publishers, we'd identify the game that we want to feature, what date we want to feature it, and we'd put it on one day for sale. The same exact business model. Except in this case, we'd worked with 10+ influencers, and we'd expect to gross about a 7-figure day, $1 million+. And then that would net to Chrono about $275,000. So this next slide is all about projections, so what we're planning to do over the next, I think this is 10 quarters or so. These are all tiny little numbers. I'm not expecting anyone to read them. The thing that I want to mention here is that these are not scaling up some really great month over time. This is not taking one particular day and hoping that does the same in the future. This is literally, what are the deals we plan to close in these particular quarters, and what are the numbers that they represent? So at the end, in the aggregate, the plan is in 2017 we gross about $12.5 million and net out to Chrono about $3 million. 2018, when we're working with all these AAA publishers, when we're activating all these influencers again and again, and we've grown our organic audience, we would expect to gross about $50 million and net out to Chrono about $12.5 million. So again, question, business model, super straightforward. We sell one game for one day, and every day it's something different. That's it. So what is the potential? What can we do? Where does that business model potentially go? Well, if we execute and we do what we say that we're going to do and what we think we're going to do and what we're planning to do, our ceiling is right about $150 to $200 million in PC digital game sales. The other opportunities are kind of going in two large different directions. One, we can expand the model into additional verticals. The easiest of which is console and mobile games. So that pie that I put on the first slide, where PC was 33 billion, console and mobile make up the other 67. So the whole pie is 100 billion. So that would be the initial concept, right? We've taken our model, taken our user base, taken what we know, what we do really well in PC, move it into mobile and console. Additionally, we can move in the other entertainment sectors like books or music or TV or movies. I don't really know, I don't have a super unfair advantage there, so I wouldn't really want to do that, but that is always an opportunity. The second big thing that we can do is essentially try to take market share in the total games distribution space. So Steam, which did 3.5 billion, Amazon, which did incredibly well, other companies like GOG, which are doing really interesting things in overall game distribution and storefronts, we can start building towards that with our unique audience and our unique model. So what that would mean is we build an ecosystem where folks live within our ecosystem, they buy games through our ecosystem, and then they download games, they build communities within that. That's what we would have to build in order to start taking market share away from them and break through that ceiling of $150 to $200 million. So what are we raising? What is this round, and what are we raising money for? So we are raising $1 million in this round to do 3 core things. We've raised about $890,000 of it. Our lead is AIM Group, which is a wonderful angel group out of the Southeast. We're looking to finish up that last 110, hopefully with you guys. And what we're trying to do is really do 3 core pillars. So the first is people. We need to grow our team. So right now, like I mentioned, the rest of the team is on the technical side, but we only have the one core back-end developer and then Adam as our front-end engineer. So we need to add one more back-end engineer in the short term, and then a DevOps person that can focus specifically on making sure the website is as reliable and as quick as it has been, and as our customers expect it to be. Secondly, we need to grow the biz dev team. So we've literally featured one different game every single day. And it has been indie developers, which means there's not one publisher like in the movie space, or 4 publishers in the movie space that you can go to that have every single movie that they can distribute to you. No, we have to go to individual groups every single day to get a new game. That means I have had to close more than one deal every day since inception, because I'm the only person doing the biz dev side. And that's fine, but I would like to sleep in 2019, so I want to add some folks to the team that are going to be prospecting those new titles, bringing them on board, identifying the calendar that we need to do, scheduling them out, and then have really core critical relationships with those AA and AAA publishers, because that's what we want to execute on the first and second half of 2017. Lastly, we're going to bring on 1 to 2 operations people to continue to scale the business in the way that we have so far, to look at the long term as healthily as possible. The second big pillar of what we're doing is focusing on revenue. So we're going to raise this money in order to leverage it to make more money. And what that means is our business model, by working with indies, is that we can work on a rev share basis. So we work with them, we identify a game that we want to sell, what date we want to sell it, get them to agree. Any of the copies we sell, they get a significant piece of those sales, so they get a revenue share. That works great, but with AA and AAA, even to have the 10 minutes to meet with them, they need a minimum guarantee. They need something that no matter how well the sale does, they have some minimum floor that they can go tell their boss and their boss's boss that they at least did that much. So we're going to leverage that capital in order to execute on the best games possible and get those deals on our platform. Similarly, we're going to use the funding to do minimum guarantees with influencers. So we have more than 150 influencers within our platform, also all on a revenue share basis. So they get a cut of any of the sales that they generate, which is wonderful, which is great. We want to continue that. But in order to continue to secure the best of the best, bring on folks like PewDiePie, who's the #1 YouTuber in the world, or Lyric, who's the #1 broadcaster on Twitch. We need to offer minimum guarantees to get them guaranteed sponsorship so that they, no matter what, they're making some piece of content for us. So we offer them, $8,000 per content or $2,000 a month or whatever it is, and they guarantee they're going to feature some specific game in some specific month. From that guarantee, I can then take it back to the developer and get an even better deal and more secure deal. And then lastly, we're going to grow our user base. We're going to build our awareness, get more people looking at us, understanding who we are, and visiting us every single day. The last 2 things I want to mention is we have no plan to increase the net burn, which is not really a real word, but basically what that means is that we're not going to be throwing money at marketing. We're only going to be doing stuff that directly relates to increasing our ROI. We plan to hit profitability within the next few months, be cash flow positive permanently, and never have to raise money again, which is the last piece. It's unlikely that there's going to be any future dilution. I'm going to talk a lot about why it'll probably suck to raise money and why you might not be the right person to do it, or you might not be in the right place to do it. And that second middle piece is actually really important. You have to be the right person. So raising money is a lot of networking, a lot of finding the right people and getting them to really like you. You have to be super comfortable talking to people. You have to be incredibly comfortable entering any conversation and leaving it with that person excited and wanting to believe in you and thinking all these great things about you. You have to be really great at just naturally growing all these relationships and building all these networks, because that is the best way to do it. The other way is you invent something that no one else can invent, or you create something really proprietary, which is harder. So it's possible if you're not that person, if you're not someone that just naturally has a lot of relationships or knows how to find investors or who are the people to talk to about potentially putting money in or how to get in contact with that person, you might not be the right person to go and raise money. That isn't to say your company is bad. It just says maybe you should find that person that can help you as a co-founder, as a partner, as a business development manager, whatever it might be. And that's really core. And identifying when not to raise money is critically important because raising money is incredibly time consuming. And I've said that, I'm sure all of you have heard that it takes a lot of time. But all those people that are telling you that, multiply that by 20, because it takes a significant amount of time, takes a significant amount of attention, and it's really tough. So anyways, when not to raise money is when your companies aren't ready. So also, assuming you're not ready, your company might not be ready. So you might have a good idea. You may even have built a prototype or an MVP, which is a minimum viable product, and maybe you even have some users or even some revenue, and you're probably still not ready. You're only really ready is when you have something so exciting that investors want to invest their money in you rather than anything else. Literally, if they could put their money in absolutely any company, they would choose yours. That means your company is the most exciting opportunity those people have in front of them. And being at that point is really challenging. So most of the time you're just not ready. Because if you're at that point, your company's doing so well that maybe you're really profitable and you just don't need money. So the time when you're the right person, you got the right product, you got incredible revenue, you're looking great, your company's exciting, and you're actually going out to raise money, it should be something that seems natural, right? You know who to talk to, you know how to find them, and you know what to tell them to get those investors excited. Now, that's really generalizing a lot of things that aren't exactly true. For example, a lot of the way people build businesses, I think Trey mentioned it or maybe didn't quite go into detail, is friends and family. So there's angels, there's angel groups, there's VCs, there's micro VCs, there's private equity, there's all that stuff. But the very first initial piece of that funnel is friends and family, meaning you have a cool idea, you have this business, you have this passion, there's something that you want to build, and the people that most believe in you in the world, which they have to be your investors have to be those folks that believe in you as much as you believe in yourself. Most of the time, that's your family and your friends. So your parents, your rich cousin, your buddy that you were in a fraternity with who now is worth $20 million. Those are the people usually that are the first investors in any company. What?
Ex-girlfriend's brother.
Yeah, ex-girlfriend's brother that works with an angel group. You guys dated, right? Yeah. But yeah, so I want to be really negative because raising money is really hard. It takes a lot of time, and it can kill your business. Meaning, if you spend 4 months focusing your number 1 through 5 priorities on raising money, that means you're not growing your business, and it might die in the meantime. So only do it if you are the perfect person, your business looks incredible, and you know who to talk to and how to reach them. So that's super negative, sorry. But I can tell you kind of how I did it. So I'm not that great, and I don't know that many people, and my business wasn't that super wonderful. So the other last piece that's really helpful is luck, which is involved in any business. So I also had some luck, which is just naturally meeting some people and turning those relationships into really great value. So I'm going to go through real quick so we raised 2 rounds. We did kind of a pre-seed and then we're calling a Series A, but it's kind of a seed round as well. So we did those 2 about a year and change apart. I'm going to go through how those developed and then answer a lot of questions. So the first one, which was our pre-seed, the time that we were raising money, we hadn't yet left our jobs. This is my company. We hadn't yet left our jobs. We certainly hadn't built the product, and we kind of had the idea. But what we did have was we had an incredible team. We had these people that were literally better at some very certain specific thing than any other people in the world. And we had an idea that seemed pretty plausible, seems like it probably could work, and I knew some people that had money. So as I was just talking about potentially starting a company and talking to some folks about advice, I had a bunch of people that are like, look, when you're ready, when you want to make this happen, I will put in $50,000. I'll get these other folks to put in $100,000. Or, hey, I know this other guy that can put in 120, and I'll help you raise that money so that you can quit your job and build this. That was really critical. And that wasn't entirely intentional on my part. It was just me talking about something that I needed to talk about, which was building a business and this idea that we had, and this incredible team that we had formed. And eventually people are like, look, I believe in you. I think you're going to make it. So if my $50,000 can help you get there, let me put my money in. That was our pre-seed round. We ended up raising $325,000. 150K was in a convertible note. So to answer that earlier question, a convertible note comes in a lot of different forms. Essentially what that means is someone gives you money without the valuation part. So there's some caps and some other things on there, but essentially they give you money saying, hey, you're far too early, we cannot figure out a valuation just yet, so we'll do that next time you raise money. And that's when their note triggers, and it turns from just money, just kind of a loan, into actual equity. So we had $150,000 in a convertible note, which just triggered when we hit the Series A. We also raised $175,000 right around the same time. You could call it a bridge investment, but not exactly. But that was that was a price round, meaning that we put a valuation on the company. That was a big mistake. Don't put a valuation on your company until it makes sense to, until you can actually predict future cash flows or future valuation. Try to raise money your first 1, 2, whatever times with convertible notes saying, hey, we're going to figure out that valuation thing later. You believe in us, you know that we're going to make money. Loan that money now and it'll trigger into equity once we actually have a reason to figure out that valuation. That was the first mistake. Another mistake that we made at the pre-seed round was getting too many people on our cap table. Cap table is your capitalization table, I think, something like that. But basically the people on your cap table are all the people that own equity in your company. So that's common stock, which are typically founders and employees, and then preferred stock, which are your investors. So that can come in different rounds. So like the first folks to own preferred stock were those first people that bought the price round, that $175,000 in our pre-seed. The more people on your cap table are the more people that you have to keep in communication with, and most importantly, the more people you have to chase down to get their signatures before you ever raise money again, which is a lot of work. So we had, we had closed our Series A round. We had these people all wanted to give us $1 million. They had our wire details, they're ready to send it. But until we can get every single person on our cap table to sign the documents saying, hey, this is good, I understand everything, I agree to everything, we couldn't do it. And that took an extra week. That takes with us, I was, calling people 20 times a day, but that can take a long time, and that can be really, really critical because right when you're trying to close a round, most of the time you're kind of running out of money. So don't add people to your cap table unless you have to. And there's some vehicles that help with that, which means, for example, if you raise from 4 angel investors, they're each putting in $50,000, totaling $200K, have them form an LLC as the vehicle, have that LLC invest in your company, and one of those 4 people will represent them. And that's the person that you talk to. And instead of having 4 people on your cap table, you're gonna have 1. So we made a bunch of mistakes on the pre-seed round. So we just finished Series A. How that one worked is 6 months ago or so, we decided to raise money, which was an actual decision. So there was 2 real paths that we could go. One is raising money and pouring that money into the company, growing as fast as possible, and scaling to a really, really awesome size. In a quicker scenario than the option 2, which is don't raise money, aim for being profitable, and then just slowly grow over time, reinvesting profits back into the company. We decided not to go that route because we knew with our business model, with our network, with what we wanted to do with the business, raising money would get us to where we wanted to be significantly faster. And so we chose to raise money. After that, I reached out to my network and relied on some folks that have worked with a lot of venture capitalists, and that's what they do in their day job, or their investors, or whatever, to help introduce me to a lot of VCs, and then just mentor me in the whole process. So what that meant is I created a spreadsheet that logged every single conversation I had with a potential investor and where I was within that potential, with that lead. So, introduction, first conversation, follow-ups, were they interested, did they send a term sheet? I had all those details in a spreadsheet so that I could track them, figure out where I am in that timeline, and continue to talk to the right people. So, had someone helping me, and then had everyone on a network, I asked them all for help. I said, hey, I'm raising money now. You talk to gaming VCs, can you introduce me? I said those literal words and got a lot of introductions. So that's a critical part, right? I knew people that knew some of the most powerful and successful venture capitalists in the country. And they set me up with a lot of introductions. So for example, my first big in-person round is I went to New York. I was there for about a week, and I had 12 meetings with different VCs, so a couple every day. Which is, it was in the peak of summer and really hot, and I had a backpack with a laptop on, and I was sweating because you had to take the subway to go everywhere. Not a wonderful experience. Just traveling and walking into a VC with a $700 million fund, sweating everywhere. But I had incredible conversations because I was meeting about as awesome as you can get in the VC world. People that had they had built these funds with $200 million, $500 million, $700 million to commit that capital to the best companies in the world, meaning the people, those investors, they have to have an eye for really great businesses, but they also just have to understand how they can add the most value to those businesses. So every one of those conversations was incredibly valuable. They asked great questions. They said, hey, this might be something that you should be scared about in the future. They gave me great advice. But at the end of the day, 0 of them invested. Not just in New York, but every single VC I ever talked to. None of them invested. And there's a couple key reasons. We were raising $1 million. That might sound like a lot. It's really, really not. Even in the Southeast, it's not a significant amount of capital for a Series A. Most seed rounds in San Francisco or on the West Coast are 3 to 5 million, and then Series A is significantly more. So we're raising a low amount of capital, and at the end of the day, our business, the potential of what we could grow to, wasn't enough to get these VCs excited. So a specific example, talked to a really wonderful VC in New York. They make 10 investments a year, and they have a $650 million fund. So they have to deploy that capital in the best ways possible. They're willing to, they would put only $5 million in a company, but they have to believe there's a strong potential chance that that company eventually gets to be worth $1 billion. Our business just doesn't really work like that. Like I mentioned, our ceiling is going to be at about 150 to 200 million a year, and the multiplier on what our valuation is because of our business is going to be a little bit, not billions of dollars. So their answer was, Justin, I really like you. I love your product. I love your team. I think this is a great idea, and I actually believe that you're going to execute as well as you are. Even though I know I'm going to turn that $1 million into $40 million in a few years, I still can't make this bet. Because it's not worth me spending the time and the bandwidth and the thought process to invest in you instead of a company that might potentially be worth billions. Which meant I wasted 3 months talking to VCs. They were not the right people to talk to. They were really valuable, I had great connections and got a lot of wonderful advice, and there will be people that I'll be working with in the future, but I should not have been talking to them. Instead, I got an introduction to someone that works with an angel group. So Trey talked about angels. Angel groups are groups of angels, but they have some organization at the top that basically brings cool businesses to all the angels, lets them invest in them, and then the angel group is that one single vehicle representing that investment. So for example, if 30 angels working through an angel group invest in your company, you're still only going to work with one entity. So I met a representative that worked with an angel group. We had a good conversation. They put me in touch with the folks that run the angel group. I did 2, 45-minute calls with them. Week later, they said, yeah, we think you're really good. We're going to talk about it for another week and see if you're the one company we decide to move forward with, because they choose one company each month. A week later, they said, yeah, it's you. Here's a term sheet. Let's do that. So that was 2.5, 3 weeks from start to finish, from meeting someone to getting a term sheet. Meanwhile, I had met 25 VCs, had incredible conversations over 3 months, and all I had to show for it was advice, which is great, but no actual term sheets or money or anything. So big mistake, huge mistake, spent a significant amount of time and attention and priorities not identifying the right investors to go to. even though I had wonderful people helping me connect with them, I shouldn't have been talking to them. It wasn't the right time. Our business wasn't in the right place. So that was a big lesson. So significantly, that's basically, at the end of the day, that's really what I learned is understand all the different classes of venture funding and who you should be talking to. Is it friends and family? Is it individual angels? Is it an angel group? Is it a VC or a micro VC? Or is it private equity? I made the wrong choice, and that hurt me and it hurt the business. Those are the huge lessons that I learned, but bringing it all the way back, it's often not the right choice to raise money, and sometimes you're not the right person, and many times your business is not the right business. But if you are, I would love to help with some of those things that really hard to even read about, even from, because those exciting talks that Tim Ferriss is going to have and Gary Vaynerchuk are going to have, they might not talk about the annoyance of putting extra people on your cap table. So I would love to help out with some of those.